There's your other roads, they vary. Mostly, I say look for the utilities in the right-of-way area, and just on the property side of those utilities, the water meter boxes, the substations for power, the telephone little cable boxes. It's going to be on the property side of that. That equipment is supposed to be in the town-owned right-of-way.
So that's where 15 feet starts.
That's correct.
At the actual property line.
At
So
the
you go to
actual
find
property
the
line.
corner.
So is Beach Drive state or city?
State. Okay. We have our 8-foot side setbacks, and in most cases, you would have a 20-foot rear yard setback. But because this is in a CAMA jurisdiction, you have to take the most restrictive agency. And CAMA says you have to have a 60-foot setback from first line of natural stable vegetation. Sometimes, like in the Kingsland area, that may not even get to your property, that 60-foot setback. So then we would have to go to the 20-foot rear yard setback, whichever one. It gets really confusing.
But if you're talking about East Beach, you have the static line that still
The
rules.
static line still rules on East Beach.
And that's why I said put it through the house, because on
Okay,
each
so-
beach, most of the time it goes through the house. Sometimes it's even in the road.
Yeah.
So that means that lots of.
So say this is our static vegetation line, and that's how it is on most of the East Beach properties. The reason being is because we had such bad erosion back in the late 90s, prior to Floyd, so many storms. The town had pushed a small berm up to help protect some of those homes. Some of you may remember, people were really excited when they came down on vacation and they could fish off their back deck at home. Didn't realize, you
Guess
know.
where the water is?
Yeah, that's where the water was, right there. So that's why Kim is so insistent on that we use this static vegetation line. So then they measure a 60-foot setback from this, this is what we call the 98 CAMA static vegetation
Which is
line.
1998.
Right, 1998. And that was derived by aerial photography, because when they actually came out after we had renourishment in 2000, they didn't state the vegetation until 2003, and it was actually more restrictive than this aerial photography. So the commission, the town argued with the Coastal Resource Commission. I think 7 years later, they gave us the 98 line rather than the 2003 line. So then if you have a 60-foot setback, in most instances, that setback was up here. So this house would be a non-conforming house. The only thing you can do to this house is repair and maintain up to 50% of the value of the structure. Now, like we were saying, if this is, say, this was a 28-foot wide home here, most of our lots are 50-foot wide. So with the 8-foot side setback, you would have 34 feet. So you would have 6 feet in here to play with. Let's say they put it in there evenly. You come over here. This is what this one lady did. This is your setback. She's allowed 500 square feet of decking. She built a deck to go around the outside of her house here. That was all freestanding but butted up to it. Then she came out here with the deck. And then she went back this way, just to dress it up. So this is all freestanding. It's just sort of built around that structure. But
Donna, where's that house at, hon? Where is that?
119 West Beach. I'm working on it right now. It took her 5 years to design this plan, because she kept coming to me and saying, what can I do, what can I do, I wanna dress it up, I'm so tired. So, this portion of the deck that's outside the 60-foot setback is not included in her 500 square feet of open decking. Just this portion that's in the actual setback is included.
Oh, I didn't know that. So if it's
Street
out
side?
of the 60 feet,
It's not a part of your 500 square foot
How
footprint.
great is that? I have a quick question. If you have, you know how we used to cantilever the porches and stuff? Do y'all consider that if it's just the decking that's cantilevered into the camel line, do y'all consider that non-conforming?
If it's attached to the house.
And so if you have a house that has a deck that's like that, that's cantilevered, and that's the only thing that's in the camel line, could an owner come to the town and ask to shave that off, and then you would have a conforming house?
Well, I don't think your house would be conforming if your deck is attached or detached, because your house is still in the setback.
no, she's saying
So
this
if
house
it's
is
an
not.
existing,
Oh.
yeah, just say it's an existing house, and the only thing that's
Oh,
non-conforming
if
is
it's
the
back here on the
cantilevered,
ocean
yes.
side, yes.
So could they go in reasonably?
Remove that
And remove
cantilever.
it and have a conforming house in the
Yeah,
islands
then
of
they
the
could,
town?
and just
And
make
then they
it
could go up.
attached deck.
And then they could do more than maintenance? or
Then they
anything?
could do more than, well, as
It doesn't have columns down here. It's to build, it's attached to the house and then
Hangs
you
it out
guys.
They stopped doing that years ago, though, what, 5 years ago
Yeah,
maybe?
It's like, he wanted to know what the
Yeah.
camera was, let me show you. All right, this is the house, and this is the deck, and it may have braces like this, but the braces don't go to the ground. So that's
There's
what
no
she means
pilings
by.
on
We used to do a lot of that.
And there used to be a ton of that, and they stopped doing that.
But, and what Donna means, when she says freestanding, if the deck is built freestanding, it just doesn't touch the house, and they'll put pilings right here, and pilings right here, but you and no one else would probably ever know it wasn't attached.
right,
Because it's
because it
not,
could be butted
It's right
right
there.
up to it.
but you can't put a,
But
you
you
can't
can't
put a
attach it.
hanger, you can't attach it in
So
any
they
way.
could make, they could cut it free and make it a freestanding deck.
See, wouldn't that be great? How many of our houses?
Well, there's a lot of them out there now.
Or, that's a
But
one-on-one
could you
situation.
go up if you cut that porch off? Could you then
In
go up
Bobby's
into the second
situation.
floor?
There again,
It depends, it's a one-on-one situation.
It is
but
a one-on-one
It's worth,
situation.
it's worth to survey and to see.
especially in that East Beach area, you're gonna find very few homes that are gonna be able to be added to, because except in the 26, 25.
Rule of thumb is the closer to Ocean Crest Pier, or those are lots that are more possible to become rebuildable than the ones that have no.
I think,
1613's on a rebuildable lot, so,
Right.
and that's right in there at the pier, but.
In that specific illustration you just gave, you said she was coming 20 feet from the street, correct? And then how big did she make that deck on the front then?
oh, she could make this deck all the way up to her front street setback.
15 feet.
Yeah,
She can bring it up to 15 feet?
yeah.
Well, neat, how about that? I'll try that.
But it gets really confusing because you gotta stay in Kama and Oak Island.
And is there a
Yeah.
chance that you get that okay, like the state and the town will turn around and say, not a, no, later?
As long as it meets the regulations
Okay.
and the town ordinances and setbacks, then, and it meets Kevin's setback. But now the thing is, you may have to, right here, this is gonna be another freestanding deck area here from this portion. That portion's in the setback. And then this portion can't be attached to that portion that's in the setback. So everything's sort of butted up together, but freestanding. It can be attached by railing, because that's cosmetically, that's something you can cut.
He just asked if you had a non-rebuildable lot, you could still put a deck on it.
I mean,
Okay,
a
yeah,
fully,
that's
you
good.
could cover the entire, inside the setbacks then with like a covered freestanding deck, as long as there wasn't an enclosed structure on it then.
Yeah, there's a
For-
127 East Beach.
Right.
It's called a ocean shelter. you're allowed to put that on a, non-buildable
And how
lot.
big can
But
they
it does have to meet the CAMA setback, so it just depends on where that setback is on East Beach. If you're one of those lots that it's 20 feet, if the static vegetation line is 20 feet from the front property line, you have 5 feet to work with, because you still have to be landward of the static vegetation line. You can't.
You can do a 5 by 34.
Ocean
Park a
shelter.
station wagon sideways.
And you can,
Exterior hallway.
There's a catwalk.
Yeah.
well, I mean, you could put a little double deck thing up there.
Right, a
and-
big
I mean,
widow's
just
walk.
look at 127 West Beach, I mean, East Beach.
127.
And you'll see they have a shower, they have a picnic table, they have a little parking area.
I have a friend that has a house on a non-buildable lot on East Beach, and he just bought 2 more non-buildable lots next door to him. So could he do some type of freestanding thing from his house down to that, to make like a gazebo area, or?
As long as it's within the,
Yeah, he'd have to combine everything, and then as long as he was landward of the vegetation line, he's allowed those few items in the setback, swimming pools, gazebos, 200, he'd be limited to 200 square foot. Even though he has a larger area with 3 lots, you're still restricted to 200 square feet.
Wouldn't make any money,
Oh.
wouldn't make any sense money-wise.
If you combine those like 3 lots,
Yeah, you don't get
adjacent to each other, you don't get any additional area.
You're restricted to, that 500 square foot of footprint of open decking and 200 square foot gazebo and a swimming pool. Which really doesn't make sense, but Kama says you can have a swimming pool, but you could put you a nice Olympic-sized pool in the
Or sand to get in.
But the thing is, you have to remember you cannot, undermine the dune system in any way. So in some instances, I think down at 3311 West Beach, since they can't put the swimming pool in the dune because it would, undermine it, they are having to actually build that pool up out of the flood. So even the bottom of the pool has to meet the flood plus 1 foot. So the house is gonna be probably 4 feet above flood, and then that way the pool, 3 foot deep, can meet the flood plus 1, and your pool's not up above your house, you know, when you walk out on the deck. It's interesting.
Can't dive into
I want to ask you about the 60 feet. I wasn't
Okay.
quite listening when you did that. I always thought the 60 feet was from the natural vegetation this way.
It is normally from and this is the static vegetation line towards this way. Here's the ocean.
Here again, you
So
can.
this is the static vegetation line right here, that's
That's-
the CAMA.
We may have, that dune out here with grass on it
Yeah.
that we planted, but we can't count that vegetation.
Oh.
We have to go from where the vegetation was in 1998,
Okay.
unless you go past
Oh,
60th
I
Place
getcha.
West, and then we
Okay.
go by the actual.
So you count the dunes that are under the house.
And Donna, is there an online
Oh, boy.
site you can go on to look at the 1998 CAMA?
You can go on nccoastalmanagement.net. And I wish you all the luck in the world.
Looking at that
Is
website.
it
Looking at their website.
Is management spelled out?
I have
Management is
I'll send y'all the directions, because I have what you need
Didn't
to
see
click
coastal
on
management.
to get to it. So it's like, because you gotta click on interactive maps. And
This is really hard to see, but I'll pass these around. These are what the maps look like. They're aerial photography. There's a very fine white line down here that shows the static vegetation line. The second line shows the 60-foot setback, and that's for anything under 5,000 square feet, house-wise. The second yellow line shows a 120-foot setback, which is for anything under 10,000 square feet. So that just gives you, I think this is on the west end, 13th place, or 7th place west.
Can we pull that on the, can we pull that?
And
on
this
the-
is what you're supposed to be able to pull up from the maps on the CAMA website. Under nccoastalmanagement.net, you'll see a portion on there that says maps and data. And then you can pull up the 1998 static vegetation line for Oak Island.
What is this other DCM2 that got, is it erosion? What is that?
it goes from 60 feet to